Hi guys, it's Kim. I'm a little off center. Let's fix that. Oh no, wait. Everything's reversed on camera. So I'm always like, wait, which shoulder is that? Anyway, welcome to the live. It is Tuesday Night Live. I do this every Tuesday, and I am happy to be here with you. I am coming to you from Berkeley, California. Doing pretty good. Went to the gym again today. Happy about that. Always feel good when I can feel accomplished. Yeah, what else is going on? I spent a little time. Well, I tried to make some of the sort of protein sparing bread today, and then I screwed up and thought I was adding one ingredient, but I was adding the other ingredient, and I destroyed it. And that was the last of the egg white protein I had. So that didn't happen. It's okay though. I got plenty of food in the fridge, in the kitchen, and everywhere. So all good. Then I worked on some panna cotta video because I make this protein panna cotta. It's a great way to get added protein. I use protein powders in it. I still have not finished the edit on my protein powder videos, so that's probably something that I should do soon. Because protein powder is a discussion that people seem to like to have, or at least I have, or they have with me, or something. So welcome to the live. I see we're live on both Facebook and YouTube. A couple weeks ago, I screwed up and didn't go on Facebook, and that was a problem for some people, and I feel bad about that. But it's on YouTube. All past lives are available, at least, recent history on YouTube are pretty easy to find. They're also on Facebook for the most part, except for that one that I forgot. Anyway, and I'm here for your questions. So if you have questions, please post them. If you want me to talk about a topic, please ask it. I'm happy to talk about whatever y'all would like. Hey guys, glad to see some people tuning in. Hey there, hey there. Terry, Stacy, Tony, so far so good. All right, I'm glad that you guys can see and hear me. It was getting a weird thing happening when I logged on, which was it was kept disconnecting. I got a new eyebrow powder. I wasn't happy with the color I was using before. It looked fine on camera, I thought, but it was like a little too brown, like red, like it was red brown. And apparently, if you go in the sun, I actually have red highlights, but my eyebrows do not. And so I got a color called ash. It's an Anastasia powder that I use. And I have to say, I wasn't like ash didn't sound like that good a color, but it is apparently the color of my eyebrows, or that they should be. So I fill in little gaps in my eyebrows with my eyebrow pencil. That is what I do. If anyone wants to know the secret, one is a lack of Botox, right? And then the other one is a good eyebrow. This is a powder I use, a good eyebrow powder. All right, enough about my eyebrows. Thank you, Rita. I appreciate that. I love my Target sweater. This is a old Target sweater that I really like. Sometimes they just hit it just right. Um, don't wash them too much or they will fall apart though. Okay. Melissa asked, is a keto diet a good diet for someone with an underactive thyroid? So I myself have hypothyroidism, which is an underactive thyroid. Hyper, too much, hypo, too little. Um, I do supplement with Armor Thyroid is what I use. I would say anyone who has an underactive thyroid, well, there are some causes that can absolutely be reversed. Chronic dieting, chronic undereating, anorexia, those kinds of things, just not giving your body enough energy long term can cause underactive thyroid. So if you're doing some of those types of things, you can actually turn that around relatively rapidly and not have to look at thyroid supplementation. But for a lot of us, myself included, just our thyroid does not work right and we have to supplement. One of the main causes of underactive thyroid is a condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition where your thyroid attacks itself because it, for some reason, has decided that it is a invader, and so it's an autoimmune condition, right? Your self attack, autoimmune. Um, and so knowing the cause is important. I think in any case, keto or a low carb diet can be a fabulous way to eat, really, for any health condition for the most part. But it in and of itself isn't enough. So if you say you have an underactive thyroid due to undereating, you go keto and you continue to undereat, you're going to continue to have a problem. That being said, there are a lot of because the most prime I'm not saying I am not diagnosing anything because I am not a doctor. I am incapable of diagnosing anything. I just talk about health topics. Just want to say that. So everyone, please check with your own doctor on anything having to do with your own health that you need help with. Just giving you some information. So, where was I going with that? Oh, so if it's something autoimmune in nature, such as Hashimoto's, which, as I said, is not the only cause of hypothyroidism, but is the primary cause in terms of percentages in the United States and very strongly among women. Um, if it's autoimmune in nature, taking an approach to eating that helps turn down your issues with autoimmune would be very helpful. So, when I first got diagnosed with hypothyroidism, my doctor was like, "Yeah, stop eating grains." That was her advice. She's a very sort of crunchy, holistic person, but her thought was very much go, paleo, which keto is a version of that, right? A whole foods diet excluding grains, that kind of thing is better for people with autoimmune or autoimmune adjacent kind of conditions. And so that was great advice for me. So some people will say that long term ketosis can actually downregulate thyroid hormone. And that is a kind of a complex question. It can cause a lowering of T3, but it doesn't look like that's in a clinical range. Is it to say that doesn't look like it's a problem for all people? And a lot of people experience improvement in their symptoms of hyperthyroidism on a low carb or ketogenic diet. But it's going to vary from person to person. But I think what is true across the board with hypothyroidism is extreme dieting. You need to stop and never do it again. You can be in a slight deficit, but you need to manage that very carefully. Extreme caloric restriction, bad news bears. Second thing is, experimenting with the types of foods you eat and how you feel and function on those different types of foods. Very important. So there's a lot of things in there, but keto in and of itself, not a bad idea. I found it to be very helpful, and a lot of people in the world found it to be very helpful to go keto compared to their previous standard diet. Terry said, "Do you know if it's okay to do keto if I have a history of diverticulitis? I had 3 episodes last year." Again, just a reminder, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist in any of these things. Please consult with your own credentialed medical provider before making any health decisions. That being said, diverticulitis is an inflammatory condition. There's diverticulosis and then there's diverticulitis. So diverticulosis is sort of the experience of there being pockets in your intestines. So your intestines are like a tube, and then there are these little pockets that form in the sides, and those are diverticulosis. And apparently, like 80% of people have those by the time they're in their later years. They just tend to form in a lot of people. Now, diverticulitis, itis always refers to like inflammation, right? Or infection. And so diverticulitis is when those little pockets get infected, essentially, have inflammation in them. And in that case, that can cause a lot of pain. It can cause a lot of digestive issues. And there's a lot of mixed advice about how one should eat when you have a history of these inflammatory episodes. I tend to look at anything gut related that has to do with inflammation as looking at as being better likelihood of managing it on a low inflammatory diet. So, what inflames you will vary a bit from person to person, but avoiding things that you notice a relationship between when you eat these things and you getting a stomach ache or a rash or a flare up. And so, y- you know, some people will say eating a high fiber diet is very important for people with diverticulitis. However, in some research studies, they found that it actually was beneficial to eat a low fiber diet. So, finding out what works best for your body is going to be very important. But in general, eating a low inflammatory diet is going to be sort of central to your long term success. I would think if it were me, that would be the way that I would go. Hey, Karen, nice to see you. Hey, Joy. Barbara in Cold, Montana. Cindy asked, best restart keto tips. Okay. So, if you were keto in the past and it worked for you, you enjoyed your keto experience, now you're looking to get back to keto. First, I would actually look at, not with like blame or shame or any anger or hostility towards yourself, but to look at, why did you stop? What happened? If you were having a good time, I mean, I get it. If you're like, I hated keto and I never really wanted to do it, it's like, okay, well, you stopped. Well, then you probably wouldn't want to restart. So my assumption is it was working for you. You enjoyed it. There were things about it you really liked. What made you stop? And I'm not like, what are you doing, you crazy lady? Why you stop? I'm not saying that. I'm saying like really honestly look at what happened that made you say, I'm going to stop doing this. Even if you don't remember actually having that conversation with yourself, at some point you did. It was just silently, and something made you stop. So looking at, well, why did I stop, and what can I do differently next time so that thing doesn't happen? I think that's an important step whenever something failed in one way or another, to look at like, well, what should I do differently this time? And only you actually have that answer, or at least I could have it if I had a few more answers to your questions. But I think you understand, like, there's probably some things you could look at and say, well, what broke down here? But my best advice for like just the mechanics of getting restarted on keto is give yourself a good 30 days that you're not worried about calories, you're not worried about limiting anything except your carbs. You're just getting back on the horse. So you're eating some of your favorite keto meals. You prep cook, so cook things in advance that help you clean out your cupboards so you don't have the kinds of things that are like convenience foods that might tempt you. Make sure you have, you know, fill in the blank, replace the foods I'm listing if you don't like them, right? There's no one right way to do this, but for me, it would be like ribeye and bacon and some eggs and some cream, like having those things in my fridge at all times so that anytime I needed a meal, those things were ready to go. Pre-cooking a couple steaks so I could always grab dinner that way. Having the like, I love to include cucumbers on my, like I get the Persian cucumbers, which are like the little cucumber. Oh, they're skinny. So you can just eat them, right? And they're like pickle sized, right? And Persian cucumbers, I find them delicious. And so easy veg, if you do veg, and then easy to grab meats uh, and make it feel like a little celebratory. Eat the kind of foods that you're like, oh, these are really tasty. I really like those. Don't half-ass it. You know, don't last minute grab stuff and like, oh, I guess I can make this work. And like, no, like prepare, shop, be ready, have stuff to go, like be generous with yourself because you're in a transition. Anytime you're in a transition, it will be harder. So do all the things you can to make it easier, including your favorite foods and not like trying to diet. Like don't try to be like, oh no, I shouldn't eat that much. Eat as much as you want for now. As you're in this transition, only make one thing hard at a time. The carb restriction is hard, so do that, and don't worry about the other stuff. And then once that gets easy, worry about the next thing. Joy, have I heard of the Ashley Z Wood massage roller? It has wooden pins, it has wheels and encourage. You know, I've heard, I don't know that I know who makes it. I have heard of one of these things. There's like looks sort of like a torture device and you roll on. There is something to lymphatic drainage. Uh I don't have a lot of hope for I should say I have not looked into this topic significantly, so I probably shouldn't have an opinion. I'll leave it at that. I'm a little bit of a skeptic about everything until I'm convinced. So my initial response is, I don't know, but I'm just a grumpy puss. My boyfriend's always like, you never give things a chance. And then like I try it the second time, like I'll try, somebody will send me something to be like, try this out, see if you like it, give us a good review if you will. I'll be like, that's terrible. And then like I'll try it like a month later. I'll be like, that's not that bad. He's like, you always do that. So I'm a little negative up front. So I'll be like, maybe I should look into that before I actually give a negative opinion. Rita says she has had diverticulitis and does much better on the keto style of eating. All right, great. Um, Kristen says, I don't have any known thyroid issues, but started taking Lugol's as a supplement. This shouldn't be harmful, should it? No. So Lugol's, if you're doing the 2%, Lugol's 2% solution is some iodine. Everybody needs iodine, whether they have thyroid issues or not. Now, if you eat seaweed, if you use an iodine supplement and something else, like there are some multivitamins that include iodine. If you eat a lot of shellfish, those things are high in iodine already, so you may not need it. You don't want to overdose yourself on iodine, but but that's not a drop or two of Luols a day. Again, not a doctor, but as far as I know, is a very safe dosage. I certainly wouldn't be like drinking a whole bottle of it. That's not going to be good for you. But a little bit of extra iodine, I think, is probably not a concern for most people. I said a little bit. And certainly if you're not getting any iodine or very little iodine, I don't like seafood, most seafood. And I don't I don't really like those seaweed snacks, those little seaweed snacks, don't like them. So I don't really get a lot of iodine. So I do occasionally supplement. I forget a lot, to be perfectly honest. Um, you know what's really high in iodine? Cranberries. Did you know that? I just found that out a little while ago. I was like, huh. So iodine is in a few vegetables as well, like cranberries. Um, hey Paula, Yvonne, crave too many carbs and gained after maintenance. Crave too many carbs and gained after maintenance. Okay, so then the question is, so you lost weight on keto, you went into maintenance, then you started craving carbs. And when you say carbs, I'm going to assume you don't mean broccoli, right? So you started having cravings for foods that were not. Oh, I'm looking for. Am I talking to the right person? Let's see. Oh, I just put somebody on screen. Sorry about that. No, I can't find it. Hold on. I have memory problems here. Let's see. Where where was that? I think it was Yvonne who made that comment. These just go away. Oh, it was Cindy. Okay, not Yvonne. Okay, so but Yvonne. Okay, but some of you were answering that. Okay. So, yeah. So what I would say is maintenance is for really almost, I mean, to anyone who has trouble losing weight, which is like everybody, when I say this, they feel insulted. But maintenance is harder than fat loss. Why do I say that? Well, fat loss periods have their own reward, right? The reward of fat loss is getting smaller. And we are a very reward based organism, the human. And so there's a reward to eating crap because it tastes good, right? It's an instant reward. We're not, by the way, we're not good at long-term rewards, only short-term rewards, right? Because if not, we'd be like, I'm not eating this crap. And then the long-term reward will be that I am thin or healthy. You can tell I was raised in the 80s, thin above all else, right? Um, and and so we're terrible at that. We're terrible at long term, but short term, you're like yummy in the mouth. Let's do it. So, um, when we're losing weight, we replace that immediate gratification with it's not quite as immediate. It's not today, but at the end of the week, the scale went down, and okay, I'm going to hang on to that. And that's my reward. And then you get to maintenance, and there's nothing that you're gaining. You're simply trying not to lose, right? Think about like the thrill of like getting together with your romantic partner and the chase and the seek and the new, and it's very exciting, and it's not the same as a long-term being in a long-term relationship. There you have to actually work to have a working relationship. It's not the excitement. I mean, I hope that we all find our partners exciting, but we have to pay attention sometimes because we get used to them. And maintenance is like that. There's no thrill. It's just like it's just all the time. And you have to watch yourself because you can look for a new thrill and the thrill could be immediate gratification again. And so finding a plan for your maintenance is super, super important. I'll just say that. Um, Veronica says, I stopped because my boyfriend kept bringing cookies and donuts and chips home. Well, that is a challenge for sure. Terry, thank Veronica. Can I have a conversation with him about it? It would be a good thing to do. always. Terry, don't forget to hit the like button, y'all, is what Terry said. Yes, hit that like button, people. Um, I love those little things. They're the best. My mom doesn't like cucumbers. I think she's an alien. Um, A Little Southern Brothers. Hello, 50. Need to lose 60 pounds. It's hard for me to get past the low fat diet I've been told for years. Any tips for a beginner? Super happy to have you. A little. A Little Southern Brothers. Um, I would say, yeah, it is a mind F, if you know what I mean by F. To think that it's okay to eat fat. And the reality is, you don't have to eat gobs and gobs of fat on a keto diet if it doesn't work for you that way. You just have to stop being afraid of it. So you have to start thinking about maybe food in general as being really nourishing, and you're looking to be nourished, and that some fat helps you be more nourished. The second thing I'd like to say is, for the most part, most of us are eating if we got to be 60 pounds overweight, the majority of us, myself included, we're eating a fair amount of fat. We just weren't feeling okay about it. We were just feeling in denial about it. But I did a comparison of my keto diet versus my pre-keto diet that included things like fast food. And pre-keto, I was eating more fat than I was when I started keto. I was just eating more of everything. So, first, I would say it does take a little work to get over. There's a book called The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz, which is like Tzie, some other letters, LZ, but The Big Fat Surprise. First name is Nina. It's a great book in terms of giving you some of the back history around how we started to fear fat. And I always love a good audiobook because I can listen to it while I'm doing other things. And so some of us are real busy. I get that, but you can get that on Audible and listen to it. She's also been on a bunch of podcasts you can listen to. Um, Basically learning that, like, fat is it's just time to start to unwind it. But I think the thing is, you don't have to, if you're making a nice ribeye, you don't have to coat it in butter. Ribeye is pretty buttery already. So just don't fear fat. You don't have to mainline it on keto if it doesn't feel good to do so. Just start cooking with a little more fat, using a little olive oil when you're sautéing something, putting a little butter on your broccoli, just little things like that, and you'll find you feel probably pretty good. Valerie, have I seen the products from Redmond's? There's a capsule that has electrolytes, real salt, minerals, sea kelp, which has iodine. Oh, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to look for it. Mm. Kathy says, I can't stay on more than 1 week and I fall off. No one in my family does keto, so it is hard. Any tips to stay on track? Okay, I gotcha. So the first thing is, it can be very challenging to live in a mixed household where a lot of people are eating a lot of crap and you are trying to stay on keto, because there are a lot of foods that call your name. So the thing I would recommend, if it's at all possible, is to create a Kathy shelf. So a shelf where it's your food, not their food. And so they don't put their crap on your shelf and you don't put your stuff on their shelf. And you, when you're opening the cabinet or the fridge, you have maybe a section, um, then there's stuff you're like, that is not my food. It's like if you go back to, like, I don't know if you ever lived in housing with like other people, like in college, or you had roommates before you had a partner, and you're like, that is not my ice cream. It belongs to Susie, and she'll be mad if I eat her ice cream, even if she wouldn't be mad. You're like, that is not mine. That is not mine. Just like if you're at the store and you haven't bought something yet, you don't use it because it's not yours yet. You have to buy it first, right? So, kind of creating some blinders and boundaries inside your own home. Like, that is not my food. That is not mine. And just keep reminding yourself of that when you see the various foods that you don't want to eat. And then the other thing is, as I gave advice earlier tonight, which was, um, don't make it hard if you can help it. So pre-prepare some foods. Put your name on those Tupperware so people don't eat them in your household. Um, Buy the kinds of foods that are going to benefit your journey. Don't make it too struggly. Uh, Weird grammar there. do things that'll make it as simple and easy as possible for you. So that could mean, if you like chicken salad, buying a rotisserie chicken, getting some high quality mayonnaise or making your own, which is actually very simple, mixing that all up together and having just a tub of some good chicken salad. Throw some celery in there, put some spices in there, whatever kinds of things like that that work for you. And then you've always got a go-to on that. That'll last for several days in your fridge just fine. And big scoop of that is a nice meal. Pre-cook some bacon, put some weird label on it so people don't know that it's bacon, um, or else they'll eat it. And know you have that go-to. Figure out some meals that you really love and make those meals. Now that can be an issue sometimes when you're trying to have family dinner together. I totally get it, but you have to right your ship first. So there's a great um you can always do things like make yourself a nice steak and they're all having, I don't know, pizza, but you're having a steak. Like you're all sitting down together. It's still fine. You can still have family meals. Just make your own stuff. Make a lasagna for them that's a regular lasagna. I'm hoping there are some other people in your family that cook and they can make lasagna, but if you were, make one lasagna for them and one for you, it looks exactly the same, but they're different. Make sure to label them. One of them you use lunch meat instead of pasta. That's a Maria Emmerich tip. So you do just like lasagna, get the low carb stuff, right? So make sure like your ricotta isn't one of that adds a lot of sugar. There are some brands of ricotta that are very low carb and some of them that are not. So make sure you do some comparison shopping. If you can't find a very low carb one, do like a cottage cheese instead. But make a lasagna with a low carb sauce, some ground meat, spices, cheeses, and then just use like a turkey deli meat as the layers of pasta instead of the pasta. And now you've got a very keto lasagna, and nobody would ever know. So there are some of those kinds of things. But I would say, Kathy, give yourself an hour sometime. Sit down with a cup of coffee and think, what meals would make me happy this week that would work for my way of eating? Plan that out. Give yourself a little time to think about it. Doing things on the fly, it never works long term. All right. Debbie, can you give a few examples of a couple of typical days of all the foods you eat in a day to try and get enough protein? Okay. Pull out my phone. Gonna pull up some pictures. Let's see if I don't know if I can share them, but some of the things that I've eaten this week. Well, no, that's just gonna. I'll just look at the here because okay, I can tell you. So I eat 3 times a day. I used to eat 2 times a day. Now I eat 3 times a day. I like eating 3 times a day. It makes me happy. I work from home. It's very convenient for me 3 times a day. My boyfriend also works from home. So when he's here, he also wants to eat 3 times a day. So it works out. But I don't have my first meal until about 11. So I eat around 11, around 3, and around 7. And this is for breakfast, I almost always have either protein pancakes, so pancakes I make involving protein powder, which is about 35 grams of protein in those pancakes that I make. It's up on my website, kimhowerton.com. And it's the pumpkin protein pancake recipe. And I top that with Greek yogurt. So that adds a bunch more protein to it. If I'm not doing those, I'll often do a combination of Greek yogurt mixed with some cottage cheese with a little bit of fruit on it. By the way, I now eat what I would classify a little more as low carb than pure keto. So if my carbs are more like 30 or 40, I don't care. But if you're more carb sensitive, yogurt is a little higher in carbs, but you can always offset that. It's not that high. But something like a Too Good yogurt is actually even lower. That's filtered more than a Fage. I use the Fage, which is like a plain Greek yogurt, but Too Good is only 2 grams of carbs for a very small amount. Of carbs. So basically, I'll do yogurt and cottage cheese for breakfast or protein pancakes. So by the time breakfast is done, I've already got like a good 30 or 40, well over that, like a good 40 grams of protein. Then for lunch, I will do usually some type of like leftover meat or a healthy cold cut one without a lot of additives and sugar. There's a brand called True Story Foods that makes really good cold cuts. I'll wrap it in like an egg life wrap and make myself a wrap. Then my lunch will have like another 40 grams of protein. Um, then if I wanna be a little, less clean, I might have a half a bag of, like, some Quest protein chips. That'll add some protein if I want to. It's keto junk food, but, it adds some protein there. Or maybe a few slices of cheese or, something like that. So I'm, like, at, like, 40 plus grams of protein for my first meal. I'm at, like, 45, 50 grams of protein by my second meal, and then for dinner, actually, I will make like a stir fry, which I prioritize meat for that, either a chicken or a steak. Like I'll do like flank steak a lot, or I'll just do cut up steak with a side vegetable, or some type of casserole, all of which have a good 40 to 50 grams of protein in that main course. And then I'll often finish off my day with a dessert that I might make, like a protein panna cotta, which is like I've put these up before, but let me show you. Mm, like, ooh, you're getting a little light on there. I got that one out of the container. Usually I just eat it from the container, but this is a panna cotta, which is just cooked cream in Italian, made with protein powder in it. So it adds a bunch of protein to that meal as well. And that I served it with a little bit of yogurt on the side. So um so basically when I'm planning my meals, I just prioritize the protein over everything else really to make sure that I get that. And then I fill in with vegetables and fat for what I need my macros to be. So that's basically where I go with that. So if I didn't want to do my cottage cheese yogurt breakfast, which for some reason is almost always what I want, a very easy thing I would do is probably some scrambled eggs. So if the thing about eggs is um, you have to eat quite a few to get 30 grams of protein. And I always make sure my meals have at least 30 grams of protein so that I'm optimizing my protein intake per meal. Um, and so that would be doing math. I think that would be 5 or 6 eggs that I would need to eat to get that amount. So if I were doing eggs, I'd probably add a little sausage or some meat to the side, kind of bump that up a little bit. Um, so some other examples I can tell you, things you can make. Frittata. Frittata is great. Cook up some meat, throw it in cook up some vegetables, throw it in casserole dish, scramble some eggs, throw that on top and bake that. It's like a crustless quiche, right? A frittata, always at the ready. That's going to have a ton of protein in it. Omelet cups, very similar concept, going to have protein in it, including things like yogurt and cottage cheese with protein, making sure you have a nice hunk of meat at lunch and dinner. So if you do those kinds of things, you're going to have plenty of protein in your diet. When I first started prioritizing protein in my diet, the thing I did have to do was follow my hunger. So I did start choosing some leaner meats because if I ate too high a fat meat, I just was too full to eat enough of it. Um, so I started eating things that were a little leaner, and then it all worked itself out. So if you have trouble getting in as much protein as you need to, one of the things is just it might just be that you're not used to it and just slowly, gradually work your way up. But if you're just eating too much overall because you're used to eating a very high fat diet, if you dial down the fat a little bit, you might have a little more hunger room for the protein. Sue asked, thoughts on adding Primal Kitchen's collagen fuel into 0% Faye yogurt for added protein and flavor. I believe you said last week it would cut the protein in the yogurt. Oh, Sue, let me explain what I meant by that. So, collagen protein is an incomplete protein. It's not a high quality protein in that way of protein is a collection. What is protein? What is protein? Sorry, I'm gonna rip a cord out of the wall by crossing my legs. Let me fix that. It was leg day today. My legs are a little unresponsive to movement. So collagen protein is made from joint tissue, nail, skin, that kind of stuff, right? From animals. And there is marine collagen, but I'm talking about the animal stuff. So, and because of the places it comes from, the amino acids that it has in it in any great quantity are some. So, we talked about this last week, but there are 9 essential amino acids. There are 20-ish overall, but there are essential, there are conditional, and there are non-essential. Non-essential means we make them so we don't need to ingest them, but it can be helpful to ingest them because that gives your body a break a little bit, right? Can make if you can, it's like takeout versus making dinner. Um, there's conditional, which means they're usually non-essential, but sometimes they're essential. An example of this would be there are certain amino acids that are called conditional in pregnancy. So you need to ingest these during pregnancy. Do I know what they are? No, but there are some that fall under that. Like, or if you're healing from a wound or something like that, they become more important, and you should ingest. You need to make sure to ingest them because you just can't keep up with the demand. And then there's essential, which are ones you never make. And so, of these 9 essential amino acids, you have to ingest them. So collagen has some amino acids. It doesn't have all of them. And so adding it to a food does give you more total amino acids. And I didn't mean to say last week that it takes away amino acids. What it does is it dilutes the concentration of amino acids. So let's say you were going to eat a cup of yogurt. Um, if I added a couple tablespoons of collagen protein to that yogurt, the yogurt still has all the amino acids it once had. It doesn't take those amino acids away. But if you look at it as a concentration issue, say that 8 ounces, it was that cup weighed 8 ounces. Now it weighs 10 ounces because you added something to it, so it weighs more. But then if you divided the weight by the number of amino acids, you'd have like a concentration. So per bite, how many of these are you getting? And then the concentration would be lower. Hopefully that made sense. It's like if you had a cup of coffee and you added water to it, you'd still be getting as much coffee. It would just taste weaker because it's watered down. So it's not removing amino acids, it's just lowering the concentration. Um, and so I would say I don't have any problem if you love that Primal Kitchen collagen fuel to mix it into yogurt to make it taste good and add a little more flavor and enjoy your yogurt. I don't think it's a problem. I just wouldn't rely on the collagen protein itself as a source of protein in that way. Now, we use protein for a variety of things in our body. We use protein for muscle protein synthesis, MPS, which is why I find it so important to get at least 30 grams in a meal because that'll trigger, for the most part, muscle protein synthesis. Because in 30 grams of good quality protein, you're going to hit the threshold of leucine you need to get over that level. Um, but you also use just proteins for rebuilding your cells, for your hair, your skin, your nails, all sorts of things that aren't just about muscle. And so that collagen can contribute to some of those things. It just doesn't really contribute at all to muscle growth, right? Because it's low in the kinds of things that stimulate that. But that's not all we use protein for. Okay. Kim says, I've been working out mainly strength training. Thanks for the inspiration. Oh, I'm so glad. This is your year of muscle. Yeah. A little Southern Rose said, I made pizza with a shredded cheese crust, and oh my. Oh, yeah, that sounds tasty. Deborah says, hold on. Oh, a little Southern Debbie would like you to share the recipe. um, Deborah says, can you explain how to start a cut? I've done a reverse diet to long stall, put on some weight too much. Have maintained that now for a couple of months. So I need to start dropping calories again. Okay, Deb. So if you have been maintaining, which means you're not gaining or losing, what I would just start doing is if you're not already tracking your macros, start tracking your macros. So get a good baseline. So that's going to tell you what your maintenance is. Once you know what your maintenance is, you can design a cut from there. For those of you that haven't been following along, a cut is what some would call a diet, right? It is a period of time where you are trying to lose body fat. So what I would do is once you know your maintenance, you can then cut. So what do you think you're going to do? You're going to cut some of those macros down. So I usually try out about a 250 calorie reduction up to a 350 calorie reduction initially on my cut and see what my body does with that. I don't want to go too extreme too fast because of a couple of things. One, too extreme restriction tends to backfire and people cheat more. Second one, you lose more muscle mass. Third one, it's harder. Fourth one, it's painful. Fifth one, I hate it, right? Like, oh, I like food. So anyway, so like take like 250 to 350 from that total. So if you notice that, okay, I've been eating about 1850 in terms of my calories. If you don't know how to figure out so if you've been tracking, it'll tell you your calories, but each gram of fat is around 9 calories. Each gram of protein is about 4 calories. Each gram of carb is about 4 calories. Are these spot on accurate? No, but that's about what they are. And so then what you do to cut that is look at, am I eating the right amount of protein right now? If you're eating about 1 gram per pound of reference body weight, then I would say, okay, you're tracking already. So I would say if your protein is the appropriate amount now, don't cut from protein. It actually is beneficial in a cut to even be a little higher in protein than in maintenance. So certainly don't cut protein unless your protein is crazy high, but it doesn't sound like it is from what I know. So then it's like, okay, well, I've got carbs and I've got fat to cut from. If you're already eating very low carb, you probably don't have a lot of carbs to cut from. So then you're looking at cutting it from the fat. So if you look at your macros, figure out how do I remove about 250 to 350 calories, primarily from fat, probably see what your protein's at, and then make those your new macros. Do that for a month, see what your body does, make adjustments from there. So that would be how I would start a cut. Um, Terry asked, do I think it's bad to mix Mio or Great Value flavor enhancers in my yogurt and cottage cheese? No, I don't think it's bad. Joy says I put keto strawberry collagen in my Greek yogurt. Yummy. Yummy. Okay. Stacy said, I made spaghetti with meat sauce for dinner. Instead of noodles, I used coleslaw mix. It was delish. Yum. Yum. That sounds really good. I love some cooked cabbage. You know what's really good to do is you can take that kind of coleslaw mix, like just the shredded cabbage, saute it a bit, few drops of sesame oil, some soy sauce, saute that up, maybe a little bit of shredded onion in there or some scallions, and then beat some egg and mix the egg, like cook the cabbage, take the cabbage off the heat, like don't overcook it, just cook it a little bit, and then mix it up with some egg and maybe just a pinch of coconut flour as a binder and make little patties, and then put some fat in a pan and fry those up, and they're really tasty. They're little cabbage pancakes, very very good. There's a name for them that I have forgotten now in Korean, and they're very it's it's cabbage pancakes are a very popular Korean dish. So, but I've been thinking about doing a video on that one. But I just told you the essentials of it, so go forth, make them. Um, hey Linda, glad to have you here. Sarah said, "Oh, Sarah Margaret, hey, haven't seen you in a while. Glad to see you. My doctor put me on meds that cause weight gain and didn't mention that to me. Oh my lord, this is when you sue people. I swear to God. Gained 30 pounds in 2 months. Once another doctor pointed that out, I stopped, but I can't lose this extra weight. Oi, Sarah Margaret, I'm sorry. Have a very serious talking to with that doctor. It's very upsetting. Um, so the good news is you can lose that weight. You absolutely can. But it might take you a little while for your body to clear out what it needs to clear out. And don't, it's hard not to want to be in a hurry about that, but let yourself get over that. Let yourself get through the upset and disappointment. I had an experience like this in college where I did also gain about 35 pounds in like 2 months from medication I was on and was very upset about that. especially because it was the wrong medication. Like they literally prescribed a different medication than they meant to. But you can get over it. You can get through it. Just it's another one of those things that is making you a better person. You got to find a silver lining there, Sarah Margaret. Sorry about that. But give yourself a little bit of time. Joy is riding her recumbent bike. Well, that's very exciting. Get some mileage in. That sounds good. But Sarah Margaret, I would say, yeah, give it some time. Start doing the kinds of things you know work. You know what to do. Just give yourself some time. Scream at a wall for a while too. That'd be very upsetting. All right. What else we got, people? Cindy said egg foo young. Yep, egg foo young is an American dish that is sold in Chinese food restaurants in America that is very similar to what I described. There's another one that's Korean though that I'm thinking of that involves other ingredients. So I do not have enough information at my fingertips to tell you more about that. Sarah says, been really frustrated. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Would be so, I don't even know. I would be so upset. I totally get it. Aaron. Hey, Kim. Hello. Now that you're working out, have you changed the way you eat at all pre and post workout? Great question. My first 3 months of working out, I made sure that I was not in a cut. So I was like, you know what? This new to working out thing is new. I don't really want the added stress of being in a cut. And I also want to optimize as much muscle mass addition as I can. So to be in maintenance or in a very, very slight surplus. You don't want to be in a big surplus. If you have weight to lose, being in a big surplus is super counterproductive. But like just a teeny surplus. Just to feel like food was easy and I could really nourish myself during that time. So my first, about 90 days ish, I just ate in just above maintenance. And that was great for me. I put on some nice muscle. The workouts felt easier. I felt like I had more fuel. I experimented back and forth between fasted workouts and eating before a workout to see what I liked better. There's evidence for both. Um, you know, there's a lot of evidence where people will say a fasted workout is better, and then there's a lot of people that say fasted workouts aren't better. And when you actually look into the research, at the end of the day, neither one is necessarily all that much better for an average human. It just depends on what you're looking to do and what makes you feel better. I found I don't usually do shakes in my life because I don't find them very filling. But I actually did find that a shake before a workout was the thing that worked best for me. I work out in the morning, but I work out like around 9:30. It's a little early for me to eat a big meal. I'm not an early eater. But I do better with a little fuel in my tank, but at the same time I don't digest food super fast. So if I ate like real food that takes a while to digest, that didn't work so well. So a shake worked out to be the thing that I wanted to do before a workout. So most of the time I might have a shake before a workout. And so that's almond milk, um, a protein powder. I usually use the Equip protein powder, but I would also use whey because it's faster digesting in this instance, and maybe a little bit of fruit. That's what I tend to do before a workout. My macros aren't really that different overall. I just it's a detail that I do. Now I'm in, even though there would probably be muscle gain benefit from continuing to be in a slight surplus for maybe in the next 3 months or for 6 months instead of just three, you know, I'm a slightly vain person who realized that I have a couple of things coming up this summer that I would like to be a little lighter for. So I'm doing a very, very, very slight cut. So I'm only doing 250 calories down from my maintenance at this point, just to see it start to go down a little bit. So those are just choices I made. It's always a weighing of what's optimal. And it just really, like, if I didn't have these things coming up this summer, I would still be probably eating at maintenance or slightly above. I was already eating plenty of protein. I didn't have to change that. So those are really the figuring out what I might want to eat around a workout was the only thing. There are some people that will tell you a bunch of nonsense about, needing to make sure that you have protein like right away after a workout. I don't The evidence on that is actually really thin. I think especially when you're new to lifting, your the protein window is actually very wide. So I just make sure that I eat plenty of protein every day, and that helps. So that's about it. Not, no, I do always drink a electrolyte beverage. I drink most of it right before I work out, but I'm kind of sipping on it for the rest of my workout because I like the way it tastes as I go. I do think electrolyte supplementation is very important, but I was doing that before, just not as religiously. So that's really the only changes that I've made. Um, and then by doing the reverse that I was doing for a while, and then the maintenance for a while, and then the started working out, this cut is going really well. I'm losing weight at about the rate I assumed I would, which is around a half a pound to a pound a week, which is not a lot. But at the same time, I'm still trying to add muscle. So it's one of the biggest challenges of starting a workout routine is like, is it muscle or is it fat? Like, you can't know exactly what's going on with your body composition at every minute when the scale changes. So you have to have a very non-emotional relationship with the scale at that point. Amy, do we target our ideal lean body mass or go by our current weight for figuring out protein macros? That is a great question, Amy. So let's talk about it. So how many times do I need to say so? I, I've not gotten there yet, apparently. Um, in our body, you can divide us up into two things: lean mass, which is everything but our body fat, and body fat. So we got lean mass and fat mass. Lean body mass, fat mass. So those are the two. That's one division. Now the lean part you can start dividing up a lot. It includes everything else. It includes your muscles, your bones, your hair, all that stuff. But there's lean mass and there's fat mass. Then there's total mass, which is the fat mass plus the lean mass, right? So that kind of look at that. The most accurate way to dose protein is probably around your lean mass. The problem is most people don't know their lean mass accurately because the most common way people will think to find out their lean mass is one of those home scales that you stand on and it tells you supposedly what your body fat percentage is. They are garbage. They don't do a good job. And so, honestly, most people have no idea what their lean mass is. And so, it's a lot easier to base it on your total mass. But rather than doing total mass, because that can be really misleading if you have a lot of body fat, and we don't need to feed the body fat the same way we need to feed the lean mass, is to base it on something called reference body weight. So, so in studies of protein feedings and calories and all that, a lot of those studies are done on lean people because a lot of them are done on college students who volunteer at the college where the study is happening. And so they are doing studies based on total mass. But these people tend to have what I would call a fairly ideal body fat level, right? In appropriate range. So if you're a lean person, basing your protein recommendation or really your nutritional recommendation on your total mass is fairly normal and how a lot of experts do things because it's so hard to find out your lean mass accurately. Not everybody has access to a DEXA scan. Um, and so I would say I used to base everything on lean mass, which you can do. Um, and that is a great way to do it, but it's easier perhaps to base it on your reference mass, which is also called ideal body weight or reference body weight. The reason I prefer to call it reference body weight, I picked this up from Finney and Volek, is by calling it ideal, it makes it seem like that's what you should weigh, but not necessarily. If you're very muscular, you're going to weigh more. And so I use reference body weight, and a very easy calculation for reference body weight is to take the number as women, to take the number of inches you are over 5 feet and multiply that by 5. So if you're 5'5", that's 5 times 5 is 25 and add that to 100. So 125. So if you're 5'5", your reference body weight is 125 pounds. Does that mean you have to weigh 125 pounds? No. My reference body weight is about 10 pounds lower than I would like to weigh, right? So could I just use my goal weight? Sure. It's a little bit higher, but not that much higher, right? So hopefully that answered the question. I recommend people use reference body weight because they always have access to that. Most people know how tall they are. That being said, if you know you're very muscular for your height, you can bump it up a little bit. A little bit of extra protein won't hurt anybody. So hopefully that answered that question. So Terry said, I'm pescatarian and I struggle with protein. I'm also anemic. I eat a lot of eggs, some tuna, don't feel like making any gains in general health and stamina. Occasionally I use protein powder, wondering if more of that would help. So if you're anemic, you need sources of iron. And so my question, Terry, would be, is the pescatarian thing a religious related thing? Because from a health standpoint, I'm thinking there is an indication that maybe some meat would be a good idea in your diet. Now, if it's a religious or cultural, I don't know, thing where you're like, I know, and yet I won't do it, then okay, you do you. But you're going to need more sources of iron. And iron, heme iron, iron from animal sources is your best bet for getting iron because the iron that's in things like spinach is very, very unavailable. It's like it looks good on paper, but you won't get any. It's barely any that you will actually absorb. So I would say if you're not going to change your diet up to include red meat, then I would say you're going to need to supplement. So you're going to start to need to supplement iron because being anemic is terrible. And so, yeah, if you have a food aversion to meat, I would start to supplement iron for sure. Also B12 as well. There are a lot of things that we get from meat that you can't get very well from just fish and as you're experiencing. More protein powder would probably help for sure. So in addition to your need for things like iron and B12, so that you could do with supplementation, getting more protein from things like whey protein, which is a very high quality protein in terms of accessible protein, would probably be a good idea if you really struggle to meet your protein needs. So eat fish, have a protein shake every day, and supplement with some iron and B12. As you should probably talk about the supplementation a bit with your doctor because those are more doctor issues. But certainly, anytime I'm working with a vegetarian or a vegan type person, they're gonna need to supplement because you're not getting the things like iron or B12 that you need or in the quantity that you need. So I would definitely look at supplementing those as well. All right, guys. That takes us to the end of the hour. Thank you for joining me tonight. Lou, does cod liver count for liver and your fish? Cod liver is not something I've experimented with. Ken Berry loves cod liver. I think it's very high in certain vitamins and minerals that are important. We don't have a fish or liver requirement. It's just the micronutrients that we get from those things. And from what I understand, cod liver is very high in some micronutrients. So that might be a great supplement to your diet in terms of rounding out some of the micronutrients that you're not getting. All right, guys, have a fabulous week, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.